Hello, friends. Somebody special has joined us for today's stories. If you look back here. Oh, I can't point. There she is. There's Riley. Hi, Riley. Can you say hi, Riley? Riley doesn't say hi. But she'll listen to our 3 books. Okay. Because it's really, really cold outside. I have one to share called Cozy. I have a strange one. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't, but it's different, and I like different. Called Eric. That's Eric. And then we are in chapter 6 of the Boxcar Children. You ready? Okay. Riley, are you ready? She's ready. Cozy. Words and Pictures by Jan Brett. Look, they're in this cold, wintry place, and look at all those animals hidden underneath the fur. That really big animal looks like a buffalo. I bet it's very cozy under all that fur. Cozy. Storms rolled over the tundra when Cozy the musk ox was separated from his herd. He was used to being with his family. His mother and father had named him Cozy because his silky coat was so soft and thick. Cozy braced himself against the wind, and his thick coat warmed him like a blanket. He's not a buffalo, he's a musk ox. Brr. In a tussock, a mother lemming's pups were squeaking loudly. I'm cold, I'm cold, I'm cold. She used a triple carry to tunnel them toward a new spot where she saw a towering mountain of fur. In no time, the lemming family settled into next to Cozy's left hoof. Shh, she whispered. Quiet voices, and that musk ox will never notice us. They're hiding under Cozy's warm, warm coat. Snowshoe Hare, feeling chilly, had the same idea. Master Musk Ox, he asked politely, may I wait out the storm under the protection of your very thick coat? Cozy was happy for the company and well aware that a lemming family had snuck in. He said, Welcome, Shoe Snow Hare, but mind those lemmings. Quiet voices, and gentle thumping only. I don't know, can you see the lemmings right there? Between Cozy's hooves? Oh my goodness. Snow swirled and thump! Suddenly all grew white. Was it a clump of snow that had hit Cozy on the forehead? No, it was feathers. When Cozy opened his eyes, he was looking into big, yellow ones. What animal is big, fluffy white, with feathers and big, yellow eyes? Who do you think? The eyes belonged to a snowy owl, who also had a request. Oh, magnificent Ummingmuck, would you be so kind as to give me shelter? The wind has tumbled me terribly. Cozy knew that snowy owls and lemmings and snowshoe hares were not always fast friends. But he agreed with some conditions. House rules are quiet voices, gentle thumping, claws to yourself. Arctic Fox's nose was turning blue. Her bushy tail wasn't warm enough, and every time she wrapped it around herself, the wind unwrapped it. Thinking Cozy would make a good windbreak, she sidled up to him. Do you mind, Mr. Musk Ox, if I unfreeze my nose in your thick fluff? Cozy was happy to welcome a new guest, but eyeing her sharp canines, he answered, For the harmony of all, quiet voices, gentle thumping, claws to yourself, and no biting. Maybe you can see better. Ooh, look in the sky. That's the aurora borealis. As winter went by, the storms grew worse. The wind blew and blew, and a low, humpy shape appeared, swaying and shuffling. It was coated with ice balls.
Shaggy beast, it growled. I fell into an ice floe and am chilled to the bone. Can you help me?
Cozy was happy to invite the Wolverine in, but added to the house rules: quiet voices, gentle thumping, claws to yourself, no biting, and no pouncing. That list of rules is getting longer and longer the more animals come in. Cozy's new friends cleaned their coats, preened their feathers, napped, and were glad for their comfy shelter. But then, above the wind, the animals heard, "Yip, yip, yip." A team of huskies, always on the lookout for a good thing, barreled into Cozy's big bulk, flinging the creatures in all directions. Their musher, a sea otter, looked on in dismay. "Hi!" the lead dog grinned. "House rules!" chorused the jostled lemming, snowshoe hare, snowy owl, arctic fox, and wolverine. "Quiet voices, gentle thumping, claws to yourself, no biting, no pouncing, and be mindful of others." Cozy, wary of the lead dog who looked a lot like a wolf, shook his horns to make sure the huskies understood. As time went by, the wind calmed a little, and the Arctic sun climbed higher in the sky. The animals felt more at home every day. But Cozy had spring fever. "I want to find my family. How can I move about with these visitors underfoot?" The house rules were stretched every day. When was a nibble a bite? When was a hoot quiet or loud? There was bumping, making faces, and nobody was saying, "I'm sorry." One sunny day, the lemmings were playing climb the ladder. A great chunk of Cozy's coat came off. Then another hank came off in Snowy Owl's talons. Cozy remembered this from last year. Shedding meant it was finally spring in Alaska. Hank by hank, all of Cozy's warm, silky winter coat drifted down the slope. Look at all his hair falling out. Cozy's lodgers started heading to their spring homes. Cozy hadn't felt so free and breezy since he was a calf. He jumped, he gambled, and in the middle of a grateful leap, he saw his herd. He ran to join his mother, his father, his sister, and his brother. "Where were you? We were worried," said his sister Fluffy. "We missed you," said his brother snugly. "I made some new friends," Cozy told them, "but it was nice to get back to musk ox ways." They all formed a circle, babies in the middle, but Cozy felt curiously alone. The breeze carried squeaky and growly and whistling voices. "See you next year, Cozy." "Meet you when the snow flies, Cozy." The snowshoe hare thumped as they all called, "We can't wait to get cozy with Cozy." The end. Now you have a few seconds to get more cozy if you're not already before the next book. Our next book is called Eric, Words and Pictures by Shaun Tan. This is Eric. I don't know what Eric is. And I think Riley fell asleep. Eric. Some years ago, we had a foreign exchange student come to live with us. We found it very difficult to pronounce his name correctly, but he didn't mind. He told us just to call him Eric. We had repainted the spare room, bought new rugs and furniture, and generally made sure everything would be comfortable for him. So I can't say why it was that Eric chose to sleep and study most of the time in our kitchen pantry. "It must be a cultural thing," said Mum, "as long as he is happy." We started storing food and kitchen things in other cupboards so we wouldn't disturb him. But sometimes I wondered if Eric was happy. He was so polite that I'm not sure he would have told us if something bothered him. A few times I saw him through the pantry door gap, studying with silent intensity, and imagined what it might be like for him here in our country. Secretly, I had been looking forward to having a foreign visitor. I had so many things to show him. For once I could be a local expert, a fountain of interesting facts and opinions. Fortunately, Eric was very curious and always had plenty of questions. Unfortunately, they weren't the kind of questions that I had been expecting. Most of the time I could only say, "I'm not really sure," or "That's just how it is." I didn't feel very helpful at all. I had planned for us to go on a number of weekly excursions together, as I was determined to show our visitor the best places in the city and its surrounds. I think Eric enjoyed these trips, but it was hard to really know. He just didn't say very much. Where did he go? This looks like a telescope that you put a quarter in to look. I see elephant feet. And I see people feet. And a big old piece of strawberry cake. And he's playing cards. And it looks like he's eating popcorn at a movie theater. Most of the time, he seemed only interested in small things he discovered on the ground. I might have found this a little exasperating, but kept thinking about what Mum had said. About the cultural thing. Then I didn't mind so much. Even so, none of us could help but be bewildered by the way Eric left our home. A sudden departure early one morning with a little more than a wave and a polite goodbye. He's riding on a leaf. Bye, Eric. It actually took us a while to realize he wasn't coming back. There was much speculation over dinner later that evening. Did Eric seem upset? Did he enjoy his stay? Would we ever hear from him again? An uncomfortable feeling hung in the air, like something unfinished, unresolved. It bothered us for hours, or at least until one of us discovered what was in the pantry. Go and see for yourself. It's still there after all these years, thriving in the darkness. It's the first thing we show to any new visitors in our house. Look at what our foreign exchange student left for us, we tell them. Let's see what Eric left for us. That's so beautiful. All of the little things Eric collected. It must be a cultural thing, says Mum. And there's a note inside the teacup that says, "Thank you for wonderful time." Duh. And that stamp says Australia. I wonder if the author, Shaun Tan, is from Australia. I'll have to go find out. You find out too. All right. Boxcar Children time. Here we go. Light off. I'll put this a little closer. So let's see what happened the last time. The last time, the children, remember, visited the dump to find dishes that they could use. And Violet built a shelf to put all the dishes on. Remember the shelf? This next chapter is Chapter 6, A Queer Noise in the Night. At last it was dinner time, and the children sat down to see what Henry had in his bundles. "I bought another loaf of brown bread at the store," said Henry, "and some more milk. Then I bought some dried meat because we can eat it in our hands. And I bought a bone for Watch." Remember Watch is the dog's name? Watch looked hungrily at the bone and lay down at once to eat it. Jessie got out 4 cups and bowls and put some milk into each one. Then the children put in little pieces of brown bread and began to eat it with their new spoons. "What fun!" cried Jessie. "Eating with spoons. Now tell us what you did in town, Henry." Henry began. "The town below this hill is Silver City. I saw the name on a sign. I went into the town and walked along the first street I came to. It was a nice street with big houses and flowers and trees. I saw a man out cutting the grass. He's a good man, too, I can tell you, a doctor." "Did you work for him?" asked Jessie. "Yes," he said. "He was very hot, and just as I came into the house his bell rang. He started to the house, and I called after him and asked him if I could cut the grass. He said, 'Yes, yes, I wish you would.' You see, he wasn't used to cutting it himself. So I cut the grass, and he said, 'Good for you. Do you want to work every day?' And he said he had never had a boy who cut it as well as I did." And here's a picture of Henry cutting the grass with a lawnmower, which looks a lot different than the lawnmowers that we use today. This one didn't have an engine. You just pushed it. "Oh, Henry!" cried Violet and Jessie. "I told him I did want to work, and he told me to come back this afternoon. He has a pretty big house, and a garage, and a big vegetable garden. Then he has a lot of cherry trees behind his house. A cherry orchard. You should see the beautiful big red cherries. Well, when I was cutting the grass near the kitchen, the cook came to the kitchen door and watched me. She is big and fat," Henry laughed. "She asked me if I liked cookies. I said I did, and she gave me one." "What did you do with it?" asked Benny hungrily. "When she went back into the kitchen, I put it in my pocket," said Henry, laughing. "Did she see you?" cried Jessie. "Oh, no," said Henry. "I played I was eating it. For a long time I carefully ate away on nothing at all." Benny began to look at Henry's pocket. It did look very funny. Henry went on. "When I came home, the doctor gave me $1, and the cook gave me this bag." Henry laughed at Benny and pulled the bag out of his pocket. In it were 10 delicious brown cookies. "Oh, cried Benny. "Please, Jessie, let's have cookies for dinner." "Yes, indeed," said Jessie. Then Henry opened his last bundle. "I thought we ought to have a tablecloth," he said, "so I got one at the store. But it wasn't hemmed." Violet begged, "Oh, let me hem it." She took her scissors out of her work bag and cut the 2 ends even. But before she began to hem the pretty blue tablecloth, she helped Jessie wash and rinse the dishes and put them away. Benny helped, too. When Henry said goodbye and went back to town, all the children were working happily. Watch was trying to make a hole with one paw to bury his bone in. "I'll help you bury your bone, Watch," said Benny. "Oh, no, Benny," said Jessie. "Watch wants to bury his bone himself. You come and help me. I'm going to make a broom for the house." For a little while Benny ran around finding sticks for the broom, but he soon went to sleep on the ground with the dog for a pillow. There's Benny collecting sticks. The two girls sat by the brook. Violet was hemming the blue tablecloth, and Jessie was making the broom with a long stick for a handle. When Henry came home at supper time, the broom with its long handle stood in the kitchen, and the new tablecloth was hemmed. Henry admired the broom and the tablecloth. Then he gave Jessie a small bundle. "Oh, butter!" cried Jessie, her eyes shining. It was butter, yellow and sweet. The four children had not had any butter for many days. At last they sat down to their fine supper. "Now this spoon is a magic spoon," said Henry. "Turn it around and use the handle, and it is a knife." He showed Benny how to put the butter on the brown bread with his magic knife. With dried meat, bread and butter, milk, and cookies, the children could not ask for a better supper. "What did you do this afternoon, Henry?" asked Jessie. "Well, I washed the doctor's car," said Henry. "Then I washed the walks and the windows. Tomorrow I'm going to work in the garden." Then he looked at the brook. "Oh, how I would love to have a swim in that nice cold water." Henry was hot and sticky as he looked at the waterfall. "Maybe we could make a swimming pool," he said. "We could build a dam out of logs." "Oh, yes, we could," said Jessie. "Violet and I know where to find some logs and some big flat stones." "You do?" said Henry. "Yes," said Jessie. "They are not far away, and just a little way below here is a pool now with sand all around it, but it is not big enough to swim in." "Is that so?" cried Henry. "Some day I'll stay at home, and we'll try to dam up the brook and make a swimming pool." "You can have my wheels," said Benny. "Good," replied Henry. "I'll make you a little cart with the wheels, Benny, and you can carry stones in it." "Yes," said Benny, "I will." "Come now, we must go to bed," said Jessie. The children were all glad to go to bed. They stood on the stump and climbed into their new house, and they all went to sleep but Henry. He was thinking about the new swimming pool. All at once he saw that Watch was not asleep. Henry patted the dog and said, "Lie down, Watch." But Watch did not lie down. He began to growl softly. "Shh," said Henry to the dog. He sat up. Jessie sat up. "What is it, Henry?" she whispered. "I don't know," replied Henry. He was frightened. "I think Watch hears something in the woods." "Let's close the door," said Jessie. "I'm afraid." The two children closed the heavy door softly. Then they sat still and listened, but they did not hear anything. "There's Watch." "Lie down, Watch," said Jessie. "Go to sleep." But Watch did not go to sleep. He growled again. "Maybe someone is in the woods. Maybe someone wants to hide in this car," whispered Jessie. "Maybe," said Henry. "There's something out there that the dog doesn't like." Then they heard a stick crack, and Watch barked. "Oh, shh!" Jessie put her hand over his mouth. "If there's someone out in the woods, he knows that there is a dog in this boxcar," said Henry. He took the new broom in his hand and waited. But nothing came. Nothing at all. The two children waited and waited. Violet and Betty slept through it all. "I'm going to open the door now," said Henry. They opened the door softly and then listened. The dog sniffed a little. Then he turned around 3 times and lay down. He put his head on his paws. "It must be all right now," said Henry. "Watch knows. Maybe it was just a rabbit." So at last they all went to sleep and slept until morning. And the next week is Chapter 7, A Big Meal from Little Onions. I keep getting hungry whenever I read this book. Blueberries and bread and butter and cookies and milk. Those are our stories for tonight. Are you ready to sing with me? Okay. Hands out. Wiggle your fingers. Shake your hands. Here we go. I love you, goodbye. I love you, goodbye. I love you, I love you, I love you. Goodbye, and good night, and good day, and see you again next time. I love you, bye.